I hear all the time about stories of teachers who just flat out underestimate us, who take our dreams and belittle them, or, they're just super duper hard on us, or they're super critical on us because, truth be told, they're underestimating us. They don't, see what we see, and that's okay. I feel like I have to say that first and foremost. Other people underestimating you is okay. Nobody has to, estimate you, in other words. But, me personally, I think the first time I've ever experienced a teacher underestimating me was when I finally got put into like a predominantly like white school, right? Um, when I was, growing up in like the ghetto, in other words, and I was in those schools, I didn't really have teachers underestimating me, right? Because they kind of understood my background. They understood, what we go through in these communities, how our headspaces are, what our home life may look like. And, it wasn't so much of a spirit of underestimation as it was encouragement. When I was going to school in the hood, in other words, that's when I felt like I had the best teachers. I had teachers who kind of understood me a little bit. They, this one teacher in specific, Mr. Norman. I can actually remember his name. Shout out to him. I hope I run into him. I actually ran into him like 8 years after his class with my mom. I was still a kid, but yeah, I remember him in specific. He would always like just encourage me to, bro, you're like, if I was slacking or I was doing something crazy, he would tell me like, bro, you're better than this. Or like he'll tell me like, bro, you're super duper smart. Like you just need to apply yourself here. Or it was like a male guidance, from a good place. A black male teacher teaching black kids is like super duper powerful. Because you just felt understood when you were in an environment where you weren't like the oddball. And it got to a point where I was being, kind of like a product of my environment. I was roasting kids in class. I was talking a lot, and some other things I'm not gonna speak on. And but my grades were always, okay. I always kept like a B average. Sometimes a little C. My grades were okay, kind of good, and it was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie to you, B average, and but my behavior was like messing up. Because it was kind of a hectic environment, so you you kind of end up being hectic yourself. You start talking a lot, talking back, etc., etc. And then I had this parent conference. It was my seventh grade graduation, right? And the teacher had like snitched on me, in other words, because it was a parent conference on the last day where they gave them the report cards, and she basically just started snitching about how like I talk too much, low key like disrespectful, even though I didn't really think so. But I guess she was valid in her own regards, so it is what it is. But my mom got like super pissed. I got whooped and all this other type of stuff. You know, you know what typically happens when your teacher tells your mom something bad. Whether you feel like it's true or not, they typically side with the teacher. To have to be honest with you. And yeah, I got whooped. So after that, she was like, "You can't be at that school no more." So they moved me like literally across the city to the west side, like Palms. Like now, like this school is like super duper diverse. Like now I'm seeing like white people, I'm seeing blue eyes, I'm seeing Asians, I'm seeing like a whole bunch of different things, right? And when I first got there, I remember it was like really taking a toll on me. The first few weeks once I got to the school, I remember coming to my mom literally, and I feel like I was too young to even be understanding what this was. But I went to her and I was like, I was crying every day after school, and I was like, "Mom, please take me back to the hood. I don't want to be here. Like, I don't feel like safe almost." You get what I'm saying? Where it was like I'm so much out of my comfort zone, so much out of my element, and these people they don't seem nothing like me. They feel I feel like they're smarter than me. I feel like I'm just different. I'm walking in school. I'm not gonna say my family was poor, because by far it wasn't. I don't think I'm not even think I've never seen a night where I was hungry. My mom did what she had to do. Dad, all of them, they did what they had to. But I wasn't, super duper flashy. I didn't have all the newest clothes. I didn't have the Jordans on and all that other type of stuff that, the other kids had on. So I looked, probably like I was, poor, in other words. And seeing everybody else around me, now I'm in an area where people have a little bit more money. Now it's kind of becoming like clear, the differences, like, oh, this is a different life, with even I didn't even really have to fully understand, for me to realize, like, oh, you guys are living different. I feel like an oddball, but I was still always like super duper nerdy and stuff, right? So it got to a point where it felt like the black kids weren't necessarily accepting me, or the hood ones rather, even though I came from the same area, same environment that they came from. I was just being exiled because I guess I wasn't hood enough, even though I understood completely what they were going through and probably was around more bull, than they were. But, they kind of exiled me out because I didn't look and talk like them, etc. Then the white people, it's like, I don't feel like I have to explain that, but I wasn't accepted really by them either. So I felt really ostracized, and I was literally begging, crying, pleading to just go back to the ghetto. It's kind of sad how that headspace, can influence people. But I remember I was my very first year there. I had a English class, honors English or whatever the case may be. White teacher, once again, right? And I'm really not trying to highlight all of this with the intentions of making them seem like something's bad or something's wrong, but I feel like it's important to this story, because I love them friends and everything, but I just feel like it's important for me to highlight these things. But I immediately just failed her class for some reason. Like, it felt like no matter what I did, what I tried, like, I felt like I was really applying myself, but I was being held to such a high standard. And I noticed that trend happening a lot, throughout my life after, I left the black minority, kind of communities. Ran into instances where I was always having a teacher be super duper critical about what I was doing, how I was doing, even if I was technically doing it good or more proficient. And like, they would see, and that's the thing too, I feel like I learned better in the other community. Like, I feel like if I was too advanced, or I just wasn't an airhead or something like that, then they would be over critical on me just to like assert their dominance, if that makes sense. Like, they wouldn't do it with other people, but because I'm not just an airhead, or I'm not just with the okie doke, now it's extra critical, and I have to like overperform just to, meet their standards. And that's the first time I didn't really understand it. But then once I got to my film school that I just graduated, I saw it happen again, because now it's in Hollywood and stuff like that. So the teachers are a little bit different. And once again, it was like teachers were just underestimating me. Like, I'd set a goal or something like that. I'd be like, hey, I want to do like a partnership with like Nike or something like that. Or I want to own my own business. And then I had a teacher tell me, in other words, be realistic, be more realistic. But I'm sitting there, I'm looking like, you don't know my life. You don't know my goals. You don't know what's around me. You don't know what opportunities I have. This may be something that I could do next week, but you're sitting here telling me to be realistic and telling me to not do the thing that I want to do and do it your way. Yeah, it's just been happening this whole time. But I've just learned to kind of ignore it, do what I know I need to do what I love to do, and teachers are teachers. They're not going to be in your life for the rest of your life. You kind of just have to deal with them while they're here. So yeah, don't let them get under your skin. I feel like they do it a lot, especially if they see potential in you. You kind of just have to, vibe out, do what you want, love yourself. God will always make a way for you. You don't always got to force it. You don't have to make people believe in you. You will get believers as you go along.